Joe Hill and Danny have a breakthrough during Blue Bloods Season 14 that could tease Joe's fate in the show's upcoming ending. Joe has had a contentious relationship with the Reagans since he was first introduced at the end of Season 10. Blue Bloods explained Joe Hill's relationship in a story that revealed he was the late Joe Reagan's son, but his mother had kept his relationship with the Reagans secret until Joe reached adulthood. Jamie and Danny have always had a hard time accepting Joe, especially since Joe tends to ignore their instructions whenever they work together on cases. In Season 14 Episode 15, No Good Deeds, Joe and Danny work a joint investigation focused on the murder of a delivery man who might have been involved with a gang that is running drugs in the city. Danny finds it difficult to work with Joe because Joe ignores his advice and pressures reluctant witnesses too hard to come forward. Despite this obstacle, Danny and Joe are able to find new respect for one another, demonstrating why both men are some of Blue Blood's best characters. Danny's case shows how much Joe's relationship with the Reagans has changed. Danny has been less annoyed with Joe than usual. Blue Bloods Joe and Danny standing together investigating a crime scene. While in the past, Danny might have been annoyed to have to work with Joe, No Good Deeds highlights how their relationship has matured. While working together on the case, Danny mostly good-natured about it. He teases Joe at the beginning of the case about calling him, saying, "So the boy wonder needs some help from his Uncle Danny." However, the two quickly get to work and Danny attempts to guide Joe rather than getting aggravated with Joe's behavior on the job. Although his intentions are to help solve the case more quickly, Joe often takes independent action that sets things back and irritates his uncles. In No Good Deed, he continually pushes a witness too hard despite Danny's advice to ease up and not trigger her fear of cooperating with the cops. However, Joe redeems himself by the end of the episode. After saving Danny's life, he says that rescuing the kidnapped witness is more important than making the narcotics arrest he'd hoped for. This comment demonstrates that Joe has been listening to Danny even though he didn't follow his directions. Joe fully accepting his Reagan lineage would be the perfect Blue Bloods ending for him. This ending would resolve the conflict between Joe and the Reagans. Since his introduction, Joe has struggled to accept his status as a Reagan. Joe sometimes sees the Reagans as overly privileged, and he resents the fact that they grew up with Blue Bloods Joe Reagan while he never knew his father. This has led to mutual resentment, as the other Reagans sometimes are uncomfortable with Joe because he is a perpetual reminder of his father's death and their own failure to stop it from happening. However, Joe and the Reagans have already made some strong strides toward mutual acceptance during Blue Blood's final episodes. Jamie gave Joe the car that once belonged to his father, which has been Jamie's since the series began, and now Danny has acknowledged Joe's talent as a detective. Hopefully, this setup leads to a happy ending for Joe in Blue Blood's finale, allowing him to take his rightful place at the Reagan dinner table and fully become part of the family.